Welcome to Play by Players, an MLSPA podcast. Now here's your host, former MLS player, Bobby Boswell.
Thanks for coming back. We got another episode here. I'm about as excited as this one, or for this one, as any of the ones I've done. I've got a former teammate. I've got a former foe, a guy that I call a friend. I'm not sure he feels the same way, but he's played over 300 games, 299, but with his national team experience, it puts him over 300, and he scored 77 goals. If you add his national team experience, he scored 77 goals overall. He's a guy from the great state of Ohio. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Chris Rolfe.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing, man? What an intro.
Oh,
Thanks
yeah. No, I'm just happy to see you. We gave you a hard time about your hair being all clean cut. You just, it's great to see you. As always, it's always great to talk to you. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Yeah, I'm back in college basically, so life got better after I retired.
Well, there you go. We'll get to that towards the end. You know, I have a linear process here. And I did bring up Ohio just because you're one of those guys that always gives me a hard time about being a Florida guy. I think last week we were talking and I said, Ohio is basically Florida without the beaches. And you came back with a much wittier response about trailer parks and, just a great thing in general. But that's where we start this Chris Rolfe journey. Tell me about growing up in Ohio and playing soccer there and becoming the guy that you are.
Yeah, man, growing up playing soccer in Ohio, I mean, that was before academies and all that stuff, right? So playing for my little hometown soccer club, Centerville Galaxies is where it all began. Centerville is known for AJ Hawk and Mike Nugent, two good football players in the NFL. I think they're still in the NFL. Are they still playing, Bobby? You know?
AJ Hawk is, I think, doing a podcast with Pat McAfee, and I think Nugent is. If they're not on offense, I don't follow. I'm a fan. No, I do follow some of it, but I should know the answer to that. I don't.
But yeah, man, grew up playing soccer in the Dayton area, playing on basically cow pastures and farm fields that, they have to push the animals off the field to let us play. But good memories, man. It was a good place to grow up. Had some really great friends that I made along the way, playing club soccer and playing high school ball, and still value some of those friendships I have today.
Yeah, and is it safe to say you were a high school soccer legend, or I know that they talk on your Wikipedia page. They don't ever talk about people's high school beating the rival local high school, and it's on there for you.
It was a big deal, man. It was a big deal. We were at the time the best fall sports team at our high school. So the football team wasn't so good. That definitely played in our favor. So we had a lot of the student body come out and watch us play. And, I did all right. I was not on varsity all 4 years though.
No, you're JV?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was like 3'8", 68 pounds.
Okay. And when did you grow?
Yeah. I grew basically this of high school. I had a little growth spurt, and then I grew about 3 inches in college.
Okay, and then we're talking college. Let's fast forward to college. You went to Dayton. You are in the Dayton Flyer Hall of Fame as a soccer player. Is that true?
That is true.
Tell me a little bit about Dayton. I know you had this is kind of a theme over forwards in general. I think always have some injuries, but I know you had some injury problems at Dayton. It didn't stop you from being successful, but all-time assist leader at Dayton, even though I think you missed a good portion of your junior and senior year. And I think you were an All-American as well your senior year. Tell me a little bit about going to college there.
Honestly, going into college, my senior year of high school, I didn't really know if I was even going to play soccer in college. I didn't really have aspirations of playing professionally. Again, I played for a small club. I did ODP 1 year when I was 11. I hated it, so I never went back. So my visibility wasn't that great. And like I said, I was very undersized. So I didn't get a lot of looks in high school with opportunities of, playing in college other than, some local D2, D3 schools. And then I got a little letter from University of Dayton, which is right down the street from where I grew up. Always loved that university. Loved their basketball team, which goes a long way for a kid, right? And they had me on a visit, and once they offered me just a very small scholarship, but once I got the offer, it was like a no-brainer. I was going to go and play in front of my friends and my family. That was big for me. Just ended up staying there all 4 years. Had a great experience. Struggled with some injuries along the way. Had an undiagnosed or misdiagnosed sports hernia my junior year. So missed some of that season. Then had this surgery in August before my senior year. So I missed the first half of that season.
But still made it as an All-American.
Somehow, man, that's still, I have no idea how that happened.
When did you start doing PDL with the Chicago Fire PDL team?
Yeah, they invited me out my freshman year that summer, and it wasn't for me at that time, but ended up going out there between sophomore and junior year, and then junior and senior year.
Yeah, and y'all were pretty good, right? You went to the final, I think, one year, and you had an undefeated season another. And
yeah, exactly.
You were a big part of that. A lot of good players, a lot of MLS players came out of those groups, if I'm correct. And is that where I know that I remember we talked. You always joke around about I wasn't sure if I was going to do this or I didn't want to do it, but that first practice that you got called in for, I think you were still in college, to go play with the first team at Chicago, that was kind of the real eye opener for you?
Yeah, it was. That was, again, I grew a little bit between sophomore and junior year in college. And, when I got a chance to go in and play with the first team in Lake Forest, I fit in. I was good in possession. I remember that. I remember Jim Curtin come up to me and saying, how well I did for the first day. And that kind of lit the fire in me. I was like, hey, I think I can do this, and this is what I want to do.
Okay. Well, so let's fast forward. I'm going to go through your timeline quick because I got a lot of side stories. We go to 2005. I could make a case that might be the best draft class, and even the guys that weren't drafted, like me. But you get drafted to Chicago. No shocker there. They knew you. They'd seen you. They knew they wanted you. How excited were you to be going to Chicago, when you found out you've been drafted there?
Yeah, honestly, we were somewhat hoping that Columbus would take me to stay closer to home again. But yeah, it was ended up being a great move for me. But Bobby, when the draft happened, so this is back when you could watch, the first round maybe on the computer. I went home. So I left my house in college, went home to see my parents, and they were watching in what we had a computer room, right? Because we didn't have a laptop. So they're in there with the wired internet watching the draft, and I was sitting in the hallway, and they called my name, and my dad got so excited. And I got excited for like a split second, and then I got so anxious. And I was like, oh my gosh. No, I've got to do more now. I've got to perform. I've got to make this work. People are counting on me right away, Bobby. My mind went to that. So it wasn't that exciting of a time for me. It was more nerve wracking. And I was like straight in the backyard with the ball. Like, let's go. Got to get ready.
All right. Well, you say you had to perform, and you did. I think you were the leading scorer the first year, right? Your first year with the team, you were the team's leading scorer?
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
And let's talk a little bit about some of those teams, by the way. We always said, a lot of people thought New England was our, I played in DC at the same time. Actually, funny story. I remember our first game against each other in DC. I'm just a talkative guy. And after the game, I'm like, this guy's the same age as me. I want to go over. And I was like, hey, I think I know you. And you were just like perfect Rolfe fashion, like, yeah, no, I don't know you at all. And I was like, did you ever go to Florida for the Sun Bowl or something? And you're like, yeah, no, not at all, man. You gave me nothing. And I was like, all right, man, well, I think you're a heck of a player. And you're like, all right, man, that's cool. I'll see you later. And it was like, but I'm a big believer. I joke around about the class of 2005, but I'm a big we came in the league at an interesting time, and I always had a respect for the guys that started when we started, and you always want them to do well, just not when we're playing each other. But those were some amazing teams, the Chicago teams. Y'all knocked us out of the playoffs twice when I was in DC. New England was kind of a bit of a nemesis. I know they were for y'all, but y'all were really the team that gave us the most trouble. And talk a little bit about how good those Chicago Fire teams were.
Yeah, I was fortunate to come into the Fire when they were still a club that was somewhat admired and feared in the league. It was still coming off of the Bob Bradley era with Peter Novak and Stoichkov, and then you had with us Armis and CJ and Jim. It was just a great place to land, and it was so professional. We did things the right way on the field. We can talk about the way things were done off the field later if you want, but yeah, man, just the group that we had there the first couple of years was great. We were tight knit. You guys were so good in DC. I always admired the way that you guys played. We were a little bit uglier and scrappier. You guys played a little bit better soccer than I thought. And you guys would end up, inevitably winning the conference or winning the Supporters Shield. And we'd kind of squeak into the playoffs in one way or another, and we'd match up with you guys, and we'd always knock you out. And then, as you alluded to, we'd go and play New England, and they would always knock us out. And then they'd go to the final and lose. So
yeah, it was tough, man. It was a tough division, and back then I think there were like 8 teams in each division. So I mean, the teams were deep, and that team. I was looking at it. Some of the guys. I mean, how many of those guys went on to become GMs or head coaches or assistant coaches? And not just the older guys, you've got some younger guys that you played with that are still kind of coming up the ranks, and just a really, really seasoned, experienced group. And I know I always ask guys when they're around that many guys, did you have any idea at the time? Are you shocked to see some of these guys as head coaches and GMs, or could you kind of see that was, can you understand the roles they're in now?
Now, looking back on it, it makes perfect sense. For all the guys that are in those positions right now. We just had guys that had such great soccer minds at the time. And then we had guys that were huge sports fans, like a Jim Curtin. They knew everything that was going on in sports, read books about, that were written by different coaches in different sports, read all books, autobiographies about different players in different sports. This guy he was a sports fanatic. And he just loved the game, and he loved the strategy of it. So I definitely saw that one coming. Chris Armis, same thing, man. The guy's just special. Jesse, same concept. Every time we break off in training session, he'd be the one kind of leading us and getting us in our positions, telling us how we're going to play, whether it's 5v5 or a possession game or 11v11. So a lot of these guys, man, you could tell they had a real passion for that in coaching the game.
Yep, and we talk about struggling against New England, but y'all did win, I think, the 06 Open Cup. So you got some hardware while you were there.
Yep. That was it. It was such a funny tournament, play in a lot of the games leading up to the final. If you're starting, like for me, for example, that was my second year, and I was dealing obviously again with another injury at some point during that season. So I didn't play in any of the games leading up to the final, and I got to start the final. And that was a great experience, man. It was at Toyota Park, the Soccer Pacific Stadium in Chicago now. And that was the year that we opened it. So it was a real special moment for all of us. But, it was just, again, it was just funny that you're not playing in any of the games leading up to the final and starting. It felt like, Caitlin Carr, for example, had done such a great job getting us there. And then he didn't really get to play much in that final. So
yeah, well, see, that's a forwards mentality. I was the defender, and they always played us in those games, and so it sucked just because you're playing against young, hungry guys that are giving like all their effort, and you've got a bit of a disjointed group that's never played. So I hated Open Cup games just for that reason, and that's our team never really. I never did well in that tournament, but it is what it is. You hinted at. Something I want to talk about at Bridgeview, we were the kind of the last people to come into the league that played at Soldier Field. talk to me a little bit about playing at Soldier Field. Talk to me about going to Bridgeview. When was it cool? When did it lose its allure? Now we've completely come full circle with the, even though the pandemic happened, with Soldier Field again.
Yeah, I think, when we came into the league, we played in a lot of football stadiums, right? And I thought it was really just a great experience to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go play at Mile High on Saturday, or I'm going to go play in,
Arrowhead.
Yeah, exactly. Arrowhead was one.
Even the Meadowlands.
The Meadowlands. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was cool. Being a sports fan growing up, to be able to tell my friends that I was playing a professional soccer game in those stadiums. But it was tough, right? I mean, not many of those stadiums got a fifth capacity. I think.
Or a tenth.
A tenth, yeah, out in Kansas City. Oh my gosh! I mean, those games are horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, being at Soldier Field was great. I enjoyed it. I think we were one of the teams that averaged roughly, between 25 and 30,000 fans in 2005 there. And when we'd have an international game after us, of course, it would be, 50, 55,000. And those games were fun. It still felt a little empty, but what did I have to compare it to at the time? I'm coming from the University of Dayton, where we had, 500 people.
Which is good in college.
Yeah, which was great. Yeah. Then to just go and play in a stadium, a big football stadium, a pro football stadium with 30,000 people, for me, that was still amazing. Now having the experience to play in some soccer specific stadiums that have electric atmospheres and they're sold out and they're loud and they're scary. Like, it's just looking back on Soldier Field now with that experience, it's like, yeah, it wasn't that great. But at the time I loved it. I thought it was wonderful.
All right. Well, you also talked, we talk about the old guard, and we talked about some coaches. You had some coaching changes while you were in Chicago. I don't really ever want to talk badly about any of the coaches, but I'd love to talk a little bit about one you really liked, and Juan Carlos Osorio, who, depending on when this comes out, he just became vacant, in terms of he's hireable. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone in MLS tries to scoop him up. Can you talk a little bit about, I don't know, you don't have to tell me he's your favorite coach ever, but I do know you liked him. What made him so special, and why did you enjoy playing for him?
Yeah, so Dave Sarachan was my first coach with Chicago, and I really enjoyed Dave. He gave me my first opportunities. He really believed in me. And I think he kind of related to me in terms of, being a bit of a smaller player, which again helped me in my first year, especially in the league. But when Dave left, we were struggling a little bit as a team. We couldn't find much motivation that year in 2007. And Juan Carlos came in, and he came in with just an energy and a passion that I think we needed. And it lifted us up. And me personally, he gave me a lot of confidence. He believed in me. He set up the system to get me a little bit more involved. And it felt good. It felt right. I like the style of play that we had with him. The practices were amazing. I don't think we repeated a session the entire time that he was with us.
Okay.
It always kept you on your toes. It always had you thinking. And again, he came out with so much energy and excitement, without being over the top or being cheesy. You could just tell that he was really happy to be there, and he wanted to get better. And that's what I wanted. I always wanted to get better. So to have a coach that was matching that visibly, that was so great for me. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and he's built quite the resume now, and like I said, I think he's going to be a high-profile signing for an MLS team, maybe the Galaxy or whoever, if they can get him. But I always want to shed light on guys that players enjoy playing for, and why do they enjoy playing for them. So that's fascinating to me. I know we kind of jumped ahead in terms of your time in Chicago, but your rookie year, tell me about finding out you're going to join the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, so that again was a bit of a shock, just like everything else that happened, the 12 months leading up to that. But I believe we were headed out to play New England in the playoffs after beating you guys. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Doesn't it?
yeah, you're right. Y'all beat us. I think you score actually. I want to say you scored in both games, or that was 2007.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, y'all
Yeah.
beat us. Y'all
Yeah.
beat us in I think a home and away.
Yep. That sounds
Back
right.
when that was fun.
Yep. Yep. And then we headed out to New England, and I think that was just a 1-game series at the time. And I think when we were out in Foxborough, or in Braintree, I should say.
In the castle. They had
Yes,
a
in the
castle
castle,
hotel, guys.
exactly.
It
Yes,
was
in the
built.
castle.
It was built like a medieval castle, and that's where we stayed when we went to play New England.
And it had a TGI Fridays attached to it. Yeah, so I think we were out there, and I was told before the game that if we didn't move on, I would be going in to Scotland to play in my first national team game. So, you know, that I didn't even know what to do with that. I put it kind of on the back burner, played the game, and then afterwards kind of let my agent take care of, the logistics and everything with that. But man, that was incredible. What an experience that was. Flying over there and meeting all the guys who were playing in Europe at the time with the national team. I mean, guys that I'd looked up to, the Brian McBrides of the world. I mean, it was amazing. And then to get the chance to come in that game, I actually played. Me and Heath Pierce got our first caps that game. And I think I probably got 25, 30 minutes in that. And it was so exciting, man. I was on adrenaline the whole time. I was probably just sprinting up and back. But wow, what an experience that was. Yeah.
Well, and then we actually were teammates. I said we were teammates twice, earlier on, and we were teammates on the national team. And I it's funny because I know you were in, I think, 4 January camps in a row or something crazy like that. And I know I was in 2 or 3 in a row. And those were a lot of fun. I remember, I don't know if you remember this. I remember you, me, and Kyle Beckerman. They had us do some like promotional videos on, how to score goals, and I had no business being out there, but I remember doing all these videos, and I never saw any of the videos or anything that ever came from doing that. But I remember, like, we were kind of these young guys, and it almost felt surreal, right? Just like, I always said I never felt like I necessarily belonged, but it was just a lot of fun being there with you and some of the other young guys. It's amazing Kyle Beckerman's still doing it, but what do you? I know you talked about you remember your first cap. What do you remember from being in all those camps? And I know we'll get to kind of the success you had with the national team and how you helped in 2010. But what do you remember from those early days?
A little bit of what you said, like just not really believing that it was actually happening. Because they did. I mean, anything they asked us to do, we just did it, right? Like, we were just happy to be there, especially that first year. But that year, Bobby, 2005, 2006 January, we're going into the World Cup, right? So I think there's a little bit more pressure that year than the subsequent years that we went in. But man, it was just like any other experience I told you about with GOS. Okay, they call you up, you get excited for a second, and then you're like, okay, how do I prepare? How do I get ready? I can't mess this up. I got to be at my best. So when I was there, man, it was all business. I think some guys enjoyed, staring at the Marriott and golfing a little bit on off days, and Frankie would, he'd like surf before training, surf after training. Like, I don't know how that guy did that, but he's got a ton of energy.
Expressos.
Yeah. But yeah, man, those camps were just so competitive. And again, it was another step up from, playing with the Fire, different intensity level, different demands from Bruce initially, and then from Bob after that. And those were always great lessons, man. You'd always come back from those camps, rejoin your team, and feel like you could lead and you were ready to lead. And that was just a really good feeling, coming back from those camps, having a little bit more confidence, pushing yourself to another level that maybe you didn't know you had. and then feeling so good about that you're able to bring some of your teammates up with you when you get back to your club.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you just felt like you were on a whole nother level going back into preseason from there. This is actually the jersey that I wore from that camp. That was my first cap against Guatemala. A little different than Scotland, playing in Frisco, Texas. But I always have things that we'll allude to this one later. But teammates here. And then that 2010, I brought that up because you were part of some qualifiers. You were named to the 30-man roster for the 2010 World Cup. Once again, I think an injury got you there. But
2006 World Cup.
Sorry, 2006.
2010 was an injury.
2010, you had an injury. And, but by this time, let's talk a little bit about this jersey, the Danish national team, going to the Danish Super League, going to Aalborg. Tell me about what was the decision to go overseas?
Yeah, that was a decision that had been in the making for a little over a year. So I signed a pre-contract with Aalborg in September of 2009. And in the summer of 2008, Sparta Prague had tried to buy me. So we'd kind of gone through this not negotiation, but situation where I had to mentally envision myself in a different country, right? Like making this big move. And it intimidated me in 2008 for sure. But when it came around in 2009, I was ready. And I think that opportunity in 2008 led me to feel comfortable enough to take that leap. But Bobby, I don't think I've told anybody this aside from my close friends, but I think I just felt so disrespected by the Fire in 2009 during my renegotiation with them that I would have gone and played anywhere else.
Okay.
and it didn't matter how much they had paid me. So, when this opportunity came in Denmark, I flew over there and met with, some of their executives and met a couple players, and I loved it. I thought it was going to be great. And I was confident at that time and knew that I, had something to provide and help them and potentially use that as a springboard into, another league over there. And yeah, Bobby, I just think, again, man, I gave so much to Chicago for 4.5 years, and just did everything that they asked and more. Took a back seat at times, I think, we had Blanco come, who I loved him as a teammate, a great player. I did a lot of work for him
Yeah.
to keep our team successful and to fill holes. I'm not the only one that did that, but I just felt really underappreciated at Chicago in 2009 when they started to renegotiate with me.
I know how you feel. I think everyone that had any negotiations with the league, and it's not just the teams pit the league against you, and then the league pits the team against you with the way they do things. So I've never met anyone that didn't feel disrespected. I actually do want to talk about you representing yourself later in this, but I want to stay on Aalborg and tell me about your time there. I know we talked about it being a springboard, but had some injury issues, but just, tell me what your experience was, and how you felt it helped you either as a person or as a player or both.
Yeah, that's a big question, Bobby. Yeah. When I got there, I was so excited. I turned down the invitation for that January camp in 2010 leading up to the World Cup and talked to Bob about that. And we decided that it would be best for me to go and find my form with my new team in Denmark. And I did that and was a starter from the beginning. And I think 6 or 7 games in, we were playing at Copenhagen, and I felt a sharp pain in my upper hamstring when I was chasing back from a corner kick. And something I should have never been doing, Bobby. I can't defend. So I was just chasing this guy. And honestly, I was trying to foul him. And I don't know how to foul. And I'm just like yanking at him, pulling at him, kicking at him, and I can't bring the guy down. They almost go and score, and I end up running, 100 yards to make it back to our 6. But on that play, I injured my hamstring tendon, and that kept me out from game to game about 11 months. That was really tough for me. So having said that, during that period of 11 months of being out, I was just pushed to the side. When you're injured over there, they don't give you much attention. They basically send you to like the weight room and the physio. You do your stuff, and you go home. You don't really feel like a part of the team, and that was really hard for me because I'm a big team guy. I've formed really strong bonds with my team, with my coaches, everybody. And I think that I alluded to that, saying that I was emotional over the fire situation before I went to Denmark. But yeah, Bobby, it was just a really dark time for me. It was a really hard winter to get through. The sun doesn't really come up much over there, so it was dark, 20 hours out of the day. Just a real challenging time. And of course, through that, I made some really great friends during that period. But yeah, once I came back from that injury, we had a new coach, we had a new formation, new expectations for me. Fortunately, I was able to win that coach over and got back on the field. And in my mind, Bobby, as soon as I got back on the field and I was playing okay, I wanted to come back home. Like
Okay.
it was just that hard at that point, and that last stretch of games in the spring there before I did come back to Chicago, I was playing well, really fitting in. My agent was talking to teams in the second Bundesliga. He was renegotiating or in communications with Aalborg at that time, and it just wasn't for me, Bobby. I had to get home.
Okay. Well, you were injured, but I think that last year you were best 11 5 times, I think, in the league throughout the short period that you did play. So you start playing well, and then you come back. So talk to me about. I know you aren't happy with Chicago, but rules being rules, I think they had first right at you, and they didn't want to make the mistake of not taking you. So talk to me about coming back to Chicago.
Yeah. It was similar to the draft. I think we initially reached out to Columbus to see if they would be willing to deal with Chicago to take me there. We didn't really like how that was going, so ended up going back to Chicago. And again, a lot had changed in Chicago over those 2 years, as you know, especially back then. Man, the rosters changed so quickly. Coaches changed, GMs changed, everybody was changing. So it was a different group to work with at the time. And I still had a couple friends on the team. I knew the city. I had friends outside of soccer in Chicago. So I think that was the first time in my life where I made a decision with my career that wasn't really 100% soccer focused.
Okay.
And it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, you come back, you end up winning team MVP. You win Golden Boot for the team. I think you won 4 of those over the course of your career. That's pretty impressive. You talk about defending. This is a present you gave me. I know those listening can't see it. It's a big picture of Chris Rolfe trying to slide tackle and from behind and just break my leg. And I'm like a nimble cat, just avoiding it, running through. But you came back and kind of made that team a little bit relevant again. Y'all were pretty damn good, and I know we knocked you out of the playoffs with Will Bruin scoring some goals up there, but you had a lot of success when you came back.
Yeah, I think that was mostly due to just being happy, Bobby. I was trying to have fun. I took a lot of the pressure off of myself to perform. I was a little bit looser off the field. I wasn't so strict the night before games. My diet was a little looser, believe it or not.
I'm making a face for those that can't see. I'm making a big face. His diet. But keep going. We'll get to diet later.
But yeah, man, I came back, found a good group of guys on the team to hang out with, and really was enjoying life. And I think that showed on the field too.
Yeah, well, let's talk about people like me, defenders. You were a guy that was really smart, and I want to talk a little bit about labels in a little bit, but you were very hard to contain. And Dominic Kinnear was pretty explicit with me on, figure out a way to solve that problem. And my way was always, I'm not really proud of it, but I know in Houston, I was pretty bad about it. When you were in Chicago, about fouling you off the ball, just trying to bully you, really, just, anytime I could. And I felt so bad because I liked you so much. And I'll never forget, I think we played a game there and I initiated it, and you end up punching me in the face. You busted my lip. And I remember being like, God dang it, I respect this guy even more, man. He's giving it back to me now. But, a lot of guys, they try to foul you, they try to hurt you because, I think in competing, it was so hard to stop you. I mean, how did you deal with people like me that were just, trying to get you out of your, get in your head and get you out of your element?
That's a good question, Bob. And before I answer it, I will say I do remember the first game that I played at the new stadium in Houston. There was a long ball hit over the top, and I'm running it down just to run it down, and you're kind of just trotting back behind the ball, and you take like a long, wide step towards me and just check me, and I just went flying onto my chest. And I get up and I'm like, okay, here we go again. Bobby hasn't changed.
Had you already scored that game?
No, this is the first half. It's early.
Okay. Because I remember that game. I got reamed by Dom because there was a throw in and I like miscleared it towards the middle, and you volleyed it from like just an amazing volley. And Dom was so mad. We watched that video over and over and over, and I was just like, I'm gonna kill this guy when we play. So it was Dom. Don't blame me. Blame Dom. It was Dom's fault.
Well, let me finish the story. So I get up and I'm running back now. Whoever your goalie was had the ball. And I'm running back and I'm running beside you. And I kind of like shoulder you as I'm running back, which is at like your hip. Let's keep that in mind. And I kind of look at you. I don't say anything. And you look down at me and you go, man, I'm sorry. Dom made me do it.
Blame Dom, man. He'd get us so fired up. And he knew who the impact players were. We did too, but he wanted us to toe this line of, and he didn't tell me to go out and do that stuff. In his defense, but I knew what he wanted, and I knew that I could toe that line. I mean, can you imagine me trying to play with VAR right now? Like I would be, especially later in my career, I'd be so ineffective just because it was more of a scrap back then. You could get away with that stuff, whereas now you can't get away with anything. So, I'm glad. I want to speed this up and say I was as happy as anybody in the history of trades when you got traded to this team, DC United, when we eventually became teammates. So tell me what's going through your head when you find out you're coming to DC.
Bobby, I was so excited. I was burnt out in Chicago. Frank Yallop had come in. We had another change in coaching staff, and I was coming off a 2013 year that I didn't enjoy. I wasn't happy. Heavily contemplated retirement that year. Was actually shopping for small farms in Ohio during that season with the anticipation of retiring at the end of 2013. In Chicago, then they didn't exercise my option, so I was in the reentry draft. And during that time, I had the chance to talk to a number of different teams and coaches and general managers, and DC was one of them. And I was leaning towards DC, and I wanted that to happen. And at the last second, Chicago came in and offered a new contract for me that I was like, you know what, okay, I'll stay and just see how this goes. Well, 4 or 5 months later, we're 4 games into the season, and I get a phone call saying that I've been traded to DC, which was crazy. It was crazy to me. First and foremost, because I had talked to the staff at Chicago when we signed my new deal. And I said, look, if you guys aren't happy with me, if I'm not happy with you, I'll come and say something. Please do the same. We can work it out, and like, not like work it out so that I stay, but like, let's just be men about it. We'll talk about it and we'll find a solution. Well, that doesn't happen. Does anybody listening right now tell them that stuff doesn't actually happen? So,
well, we were I think I remember when we found out, like Ben was like, "Hey, you won't believe who we just got," and we couldn't believe it. And I remember, I think it might have been Davey, or it was maybe even Eddie. Someone was like, "How stupid is Chicago? Like, they're so dumb." And I mean, talk about, we had I don't want to go too deep in our DC group, but we had all these veteran guys. And sometimes with good teams, you need someone that just kind of gives you that different element, someone that can take the game and put it on its head and kind of be a game changer. And that was what you were, I think. And I don't think you disagree with me on that. I think that you fit what we were trying to do perfect. And we were real clean cut, Benny ball, like let's find a way to win. And more often than not, it was you or Luis Silva or, you guys, and Patrick Narco later came in, but you were the guy that found those important goals. And, I hope you enjoyed your time in DC, because I know we were so happy to get you when you came in. I think had you been there earlier, we would have won the Supporter Shield that first year.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate what you said there, and I did. I loved it, man. Those were, I guess I only played really 2 years there, and suffered 2 terrible injuries, believe it or not. And it's still 2 of my favorite seasons in MLS. I loved our group. I loved our mentality. I enjoyed playing for Ben. I always loved playing at RFK. That was my favorite place to play in the league. I really, really enjoyed it, and I was happy to be there.
Well, you hint at your injuries. I will tell people Chris Rolfe has scored 2 of arguably the greatest goals no one has ever seen. One was his rookie year against AC Milan, when the cameras were replaying AC Milan's goals and no one seemed to catch his bomb against them. And the second goal was in a training session. Chris Rolfe throws a bicycle kick that is a bicycle kick of the ages. And tell us what happens at the end of that one.
Yeah, no.
Ben might not have forgiven you for this, by the way.
Yeah, no, I was having a great session, man. I was having so much fun. I remember like laughing with Bobby, like during possession, we're like wrestling. Like it was just a fun session, man. The season was going so well. I believe we were in first place at the time, right?
Yeah, we were doing well.
And yeah, we were playing like 77, 88. Fabi clipped the ball in from the side, and it was perfect. I love, getting acrobatic and doing side bikes and full bikes, and I went up for it and connected well. Dude, I crushed it. I scored. It was a great goal.
Amazing goal. The best goal I've ever seen.
But man, when I landed, I couldn't tell you, I've done this hundreds of times. And when I landed, instead of my elbow bending naturally the way it normally would, my hand just slid slightly on the turf and everything locked, and my whole body weight went down into my elbow. And it was very similar to a car crash when someone, braces and puts their hand towards the dashboard.
Yeah. No, it was horrific. I remember a bunch of guys got sick to their stomach, and I think you were the calmest one there, kind of like, oh, this isn't good. And I think Chad Ashton was like, God damn it, Chris. Like he knew we didn't realize what the implications of that were, but it was kind of a real dent in the season, for what we were trying to do, and a real mood changer. I know you didn't mean to do it, but it was a heck of a goal for those that were wondering, though. It was probably the best goal I've seen Chris score with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah. I was really upset with my arms before. Shocker. And in college, I had broken my right arm kind of closer to the elbow, and they had to put me in a cast up to my shoulder. So
okay.
when this arm broke in that training session, and Ben came over right away, the reason that I was upset was, he got there and I was like, look, Ben, I'm done. Like, I think I said it like right away. I'm like, I'm done. They're going to put me in a cast up to my shoulder. I'm like, I'm not playing the rest of the season.
Yeah.
My mind went straight to that. And we can talk about me playing at the end of that season if you want to.
Well, I actually want to go back to, 2015, you were the team MVP. I believe that was another leading and goal scored, I think, for us. I want to talk about something that you don't hear a lot about, especially in MLS, is guys doing their own deal. Can you, in the age of agents and you hear all these things. Can you talk us through negotiating your own deal and why you chose to do that?
Yeah, I think it was something that always intrigued me, that whole process. Um, I think early in my career, I didn't know what was going on, and I felt like I needed an agent to move me through my contracts and to get the most value for me. But when that time came to renegotiate, that's what was that, 2015, right?
I think it was when you had a heck of a year, so I'm guessing it was 15.
Yeah, so I think we started talking like the summer of 2015, and I just thought I probably don't have many more chances to negotiate a contract for myself. And I reached out to Dave Casper at DC United, and he was willing to work with me on it. And I just wanted that experience, so I moved forward with that. And ultimately, we decided that it was better if I didn't do it face to face with Dave. So we had more or less a mediator kind of work through that process. But it was fun, Bobby. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the financial side of things and the business side of things. And I got creative with bonuses and the structure of it, all things that in the back of your mind aren't going to get accepted because there's a standard contract for everybody, right? Except for the big name guys. And I still had fun with it, and Dave shot down everything that I threw at him that was creative, but I still enjoyed it. And I ended up, signing the most lucrative deal of my career.
Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive. I know I was happy for you. And, I think that was pretty cool. And let's speed it up. We get to 2016, unfortunately, the reality of we joke around a lot, guys that are retired or played in the league a long time about getting hit in the head so many times, but you end up having some serious concussion injuries. It ends up getting you. Talk to me a little bit about, what you went through. Luckily, I think for us as a team, you were around for a very long time. Even though you weren't playing, you were still around the group playing ping pong, helping out, giving young guys advice. But, talk to me about being a guy that unfortunately suffered from concussions, ended up calling your career short a little early.
Yeah, man, it was obviously very tough. I mean, I think most people that know me or fans of Chicago or DC kind of followed that story a little bit, and it was a dark, challenging time for me. And Bob, I mean, it still brings up emotions because I'm still dealing with it now. I'm still dealing with the effects of it. So, yeah, it was just so challenging, man, to have my career end that quickly, that abruptly, in that manner too. It was so hard. And then and you said that I was around the team a lot, but if you remember, I really wasn't able to come into the stadium until about 2 months after the injury because I couldn't even drive, man. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go outside and go for a walk and not get symptomatic. It was life changing. And to turn it now, what it did was it gave me perspective on life. The simple task, even this morning, going out and walking my dog in the morning, that's something I couldn't do for about 2 months after the injury. And then even after that, it was challenging with, if it was sunny out, I'd be symptomatic. If I went to the woods to try and do a hike, light coming through the trees made me symptomatic. So just, again, the best thing about it for me was that it gave me perspective, and I'm grateful for very, very simple things in life now. And I think that's a kind of a key to happiness, to be honest.
And then I do want to talk about kind of you retire in 2017. I think that you're starting to see these younger players. I don't know how much soccer you're watching these days, but you've got the Gio Reynas and the Christian Pulisics of the world. Americans, we love athletic guys, right? We love to label people, and you were always kind of this enigma for these people that wanted to put a label on you because they wanted a big, fast, athletic forward, or they wanted a guy that could just hold the ball up and smash people, or a burner. It was always these combination of things. And it was really hard to put you a quantity or quantify you. How do you, how would you describe yourself, as a player?
I think I was a good complement to other players. I never wanted to be the star. I never wanted to have the spotlight on me. That makes me uncomfortable. But I think, especially when we came in the league, Bobby, we were playing, like 4-4-2s. I didn't really fit into those formations too well. I think if I was playing today with a little bit more freedom, maybe in a 4-3-3 or, any other formation where I'd have a little bit more freedom, I think I would have fit in extremely well in today's game. But back then, man, it was just like I was trying to survive. So if Nate Jacob was my, other forward, I was going to do whatever it took to help Nate score goals and find ways for me to score goals. And at times that meant, I had to try and be the target guy and hold guys up. I was decent in the air at flicking balls. I had good timing for that. I could jump a little bit in my 20s.
No, don't say that. Yeah, I say people would say, oh, he's not athletic, or he's not as they think the way the words people would invent to describe you would go well in your crossword puzzles that you do. But they don't really do it justice. I remember we were at the Results Gym in DC, and I remember they had a basketball court, and Eddie Johnson was he was filming himself on Instagram, slam dunking the basketball. And I remember he slammed one and he's like trying to talk. And in the background of the video, you just come running in and you just you dunk the ball in the background. And I remember everyone was just like, did Rolfe just dunk a basketball? And then Eddie was like, man, he just ruined my video. And he was so mad. And I just remember being like people just don't expect this guy, not physically imposing guy to be so athletic. But you talk about being able to jump. I mean, I'll never forget Eddie's reaction when you dunked that ball in the background of his video, man. It was like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, well, I think there's just a handful of us like standing in the corner of the basketball court, just waiting for like Eddie to finish his video shoot. And Davey Arno is like, I think sarcastically goes, Rolfe, show him how to do it. So I just like started wandering down there and just grabbed the ball and took off from, a jog from half court. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to dunk it or not. It would have been great if the video was still on and I just jammed it off the rim and, but yeah.
All right. Well, one last DC story, and then we'll speed it up to what you're doing now. But I'll never forget one of my favorite things. I talked to Jared Jeffrey a lot, and he couldn't believe, Chad Ashton and I had a great relationship. I feel like, we did argue, but I think we always respected each other. And I'll never forget, we were playing Houston, and before the game, I had said, hey, just so you know, the goalie cheats. He comes off. He always tries to get a jump on the ball. So I'd shoot it goalie side if you can. And I remember it was like the perfect thing. Like it probably hit both posts, like the top crossbar and the post. It was like the greatest shot ever. And I remember like after the game, Chad was like, great goal. And he was like, good call, Bobby. And I remember Jared was like, what did Bobby have to do with this goal at all? And you were just completely like, what? He told me as if it was like an easy feat that you put it in the corner. That, like, for me, that was, I'll never forget that, just because, one, it was against my old team. Two, you always had a way of scoring against, my old team and helping kind of, I think you cemented your place in my heart just by, putting people on the ground and putting the ball in the back of the net when it mattered. But I don't know if you remember any of those games, but I sure as heck do. And I mean, I loved it, man. That was some of my best memories were you scoring goals, running around like an idiot, like an airplane. I love that stuff, man.
That was fun, man. Those are, I tell people that's, the feeling that I would get scoring a goal. I don't know if I'll ever have that feeling again. It was just, it was euphoric. You turn into a kid again, and then you've got all these other grown men that also revert to children, and they're just chasing you, and you're screaming and you're tackling each other, and it's just it's something I'll always remember and share.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about where you're at now. I know you were in Colorado for a little bit. I think doing a little bit of farming, and I think you were working a little bit with the women's team at the University of Denver. Now you're up. I think you're at Notre Dame. Tell me what you got going on now.
Yeah, no, I've just got a great opportunity at Notre Dame. It popped up last summer. And yeah, just decided my time in Colorado was kind of coming to an end, and that experience had kind of run its course, and was ready for something new. And I also was ready to see if I wanted to get back into soccer in any capacity. I was resentful at the end of my career. I was angry, frustrated, worked through a lot of emotions that I'd been, pushing down to continue to be successful while I played. And I kind of let those come to the surface in Colorado, and I worked through that. And it was a great period of growth for me. But, when this opportunity came at Notre Dame to work with the men's soccer team, I bid on it and came and interviewed, and I enjoyed my interactions with everyone here at the university, and the staff is, just full of great guys. And for me, then it was a no-brainer. Why not come back closer to the Midwest, where my family is. My parents are getting older. I had a nephew that, was a couple hours drive away. It just made a lot of sense for me to come back.
And do those guys that you help every day, do they know what kind of player you were? Or, I know how many guys that we went to college with didn't even watch soccer, especially the old guys, like you and I are. But do they know what kind of player you were? And do you ever get a chance to lace them up and just leather one, just put your foot through the ball and show them how you can hit a ball?
Yeah, no. So the role that I have here, according to the NCAA, it prohibits me from doing anything like soccer specific with the guys. So I don't coach at all.
Okay.
I don't do anything with the ball with them. And I think a couple of the guys have an idea of especially my time in Chicago, because they're from Chicago.
Okay.
I think their families and their parents were fans back when I was with the Fire. But amazing yesterday. So the kids, if they want football tickets, they have to buy them through me. So we play Clemson this weekend. I don't know when this is going to air, but we have a football game this weekend, and
a big one.
Yeah, and one of the freshmen, he had to Venmo me the money so I could buy the ticket. So he Venmos me. He sees me the next day and he goes, "Hey, I saw your Venmo profile picture. Do you play for DC United? Was that a DC United jersey?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, you played pro?" I was like, "Yeah, I played for a little bit." So Bobby, I don't think so, man. And I wouldn't have either. And I don't, I wouldn't known back when I was in college what guys played in MLS and what guys didn't. So you can't fault them, but yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, I just think it's hysterical. They don't know what you're capable of. And talk to me a little bit. I see the plants in the background. Talk to me a little bit about sustainability. I mean, are you, for those that don't know, Chris has always been he's big into sustainability. I kid you not. Last week I ate a cheeseburger and I just ate the burger. I took the bun away and I got rid of it, and that was in honor of you. I am living a healthier lifestyle because of your impact. So, I mean, talk to me about what you have going on from a sustainability standpoint.
Well, Bobby, that's food waste. That's something you shouldn't be doing.
My bad.
But yeah, no, it's it's a lifestyle at this point, right? So, and I try to push that a little bit onto our guys. I've gotten our entire staff bamboo silverware that they travel with. So we're getting rid of the plastic forks and knives. But it's tough right now, with the pandemic. Everything's to go. Everything's in plastic containers, individual boxes. There's a lot of waste right now. And I think that's fine. And I think there's a place for plastic and that sort of stuff in our society, but it should be less convenience and more, use it when it's necessary. But yeah, Bob, I got the houseplants are still here. Some of these are from DC. They've made the trek to Ohio and then to Colorado and Indiana. And I've got I harvested a tomato, probably the last tomato in South Bend that's been harvested this year because we've had some cool days. But I've got berry bushes. I tore out the whole side of my backyard and put in 8 different berry bushes out there. this spring. So yeah, man, just trying to do what I can.
Well, I tell you what, man, I think everybody's unique and everyone has their own story to tell. I think there's no one in the world like Chris Rolfe, and I'm just grateful that I was at least on some part of your journey. You've impacted me. I know I told you impacted my wife. You've impacted all the guys that you played with. Hopefully, I'm really happy that you're back in the game and you're around the game and you were able to work through some of that stuff. And I think that everyone will be better with you around the game. So, I just want to say thanks for coming on the podcast. I know people will love to hear some of your insight, and I'm happy you're doing well, and it's always great to see your face and hear your voice. So, I miss you, man. I'm glad that you're doing well, and thank you again for coming on. I'm thrilled that you were able to do this.
Yeah. Likewise, Bobby. Again, our friendship is lasted since we've retired, which many of them don't. And I really value that and appreciate that. So it's always great to catch up. And this is a nice tame version of what our normal conversations are. So.
Well, it's a PA, but your story is great, and you've been through a lot, man. And you went through a lot of the transitions. We talk about stadiums to expansion drafts to re-entry drafts to moving overseas, not being able to get a contract, coming back, injuries. So you've been through it all, and that's really what we're all about at the PA, letting people know what some of the guys' journeys have been, and what better way than to get a guy that's kind of done it all. And it's good. I know people were concerned about you in DC, and you're not as I'd say as out there as a lot of people in terms of the on social media, and you're not as easy to follow. So this will be a great chance for them to catch up and see what you're doing. And I know they'll be thrilled to hear that you're happy and working back in the game.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate you bringing me on, Bobby. I do.
All right, Chris Rolfe, everybody, one of the best to do it in American soccer, and one of my favorite all-time teammates.